Do you know when you first develop a risk for Alzheimer's? On the day you are born. Your lifestyle and your environment will eventually play a role, but you carry a gene or a group of genes that will either increase or reduce your risk of Alzheimer's. My father's mother, my grandma, Mary, died of Alzheimer's. My father's sister, my beloved Aunt Marg, died of Alzheimer's. And for a decade, my mother, the beautiful Betty, lived with it and then died from it. My family watched these three cherished women slowly lose their memories, their personalities, their minds, their lives, wondering, when will it hit our generation? At a family reunion this summer, I learned the time is now. 2 of my cousins are living with Alzheimer's. And like every other child of Alzheimer's, I wonder, am I next? You might be asking yourself that question too. Thank you for joining us for this journey through Alzheimer's. Tonight I'll take you along as I become a test subject to find out if I qualify for a drug study aimed at Alzheimer's prevention. We'll learn the surprising impact diet and exercise can have on the disease and take a look at the very latest research. In just a minute, a love story that even Alzheimer's can't end. If you have questions about Alzheimer's, we've gathered a team of experts who can help. They are on the front lines of the disease, and tonight they are on our Call 4 lines. Call 844-442-2554 at any time during this program. For warning signs to services, they've got answers. First, though, let's take a look at some surprising new numbers that show an unexpected racial disparity in Alzheimer's. According to the Alzheimer's Association, nearly 7 million Americans have Alzheimer's. Starting at age 65, 1 in 9 will develop the disease. Overall, about 7% of white Americans get it. But for reasons that are still elusive, Americans of color are more likely to develop Alzheimer's. It will emerge in 13% of Hispanics. And alarmingly, the risk jumps to 20% for Black Americans. And in a study from the National Institute on Aging, Black participants were also more likely to experience delusions and hallucinations, and to have aggression, irritability, and behavior changes. For families living with Alzheimer's, no matter the color of their skin or their ethnic background, heartbreak is universal. Aaron Mail is a retired naval officer, a nuclear energy specialist who in his early 50s was planning years of fun and travel with his wife, Nicole. Neither of them planned for Alzheimer's.
Hey, sweetheart. You got a visitor, Nick?
Aaron Mail has too many one-sided conversations these days with the woman he still calls his best friend, the love of his life, who he married just a few years after meeting her in middle school. Aaron and Nicole shared a loving relationship, built a beautiful family, and then
there was just little things. Not sure what time we were going to dinner that night. Might ask me 3 times a day, what time is dinner again? Losing keys, cell phones, big time, and just losing track of a lot of things.
Little things became big things. Their family doctor confirmed cognitive issues. A neurologist said maybe it's just depression. But Aaron wasn't buying that. He took her to Ohio State University's Alzheimer's specialist, Dr. Douglas Share.
So it was our 30th wedding anniversary coming up, and I told him I was going to take her to Jamaica. I hopefully would make it back. And he said, yeah, take her. I said, this might be the last chance she gets to go out of the United States, so we're going to do it. So we went on our vacation, and we came back. He had a diagnosis for us. Early onset Alzheimer's, and that was almost 2 years ago.
Nicole was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at the age of 51.
A lot of people, I've read a lot where they call it the old person's disease, but it's not. It's it's something that, I compare it, people talk about, how do you go through it? And I'm like, I had cancer. I'm fully cured now, but I could still come home and talk to her every day. I could give her a hug. I could hold a conversation. We could go on vacations. We could do whatever we want to do. Alzheimer's doesn't allow you to do that. It takes them away from you twice. I've lost her the first time. And I'm not looking forward to the second.
Alzheimer's ended so much. Aaron had just retired from a career in the U.S. Navy and was working at Battelle. For 2 years, he cared for Nicole at home.
My kids always told me, Dad, we know you try to fix everything, but you can't fix this one.
He made the difficult decision to move her into Camper House, leaving the care of the love of his life to someone else.
First week was really bad. That was kind of quiet. I think if I wasn't in the Navy and did a whole bunch of deployments, I think it would have been worse because I was used to being by myself sometimes. But the best thing I got is I can always come and see her. So that's what I kept in my mind, to say, hey, she's just across town. I can go see her whenever I want. I'll see her tomorrow. But the biggest thing is the grandkids don't get experience. They're Nene fully. And they're going to miss out on a lot.
Aaron drew this picture to remind her of her loving granddaughters. He says most middle-aged couples are not prepared financially for Alzheimer's.
I'm fortunate. I'm blessed that I went to the Navy, I retired, I have a pension that I draw, and I have a full-time job. If I didn't have those two, I don't know where we'd be. I do believe when you read the articles about Alzheimer's, it is really a bankruptcy disease because people don't plan on long-term health care.
Aaron says he knows Nicole's suffering will eventually end when she gets to heaven. Do you think when she gets there, she'll look back and say, gosh, he took care of me?
Yeah, I do believe that. She would do the same for me.
Do you eat a lot of high-fat processed food? Experts say you could be increasing your risk for Alzheimer's because what we eat can affect an aging brain's ability to think and remember. Later, how diet and exercise are making life better at a memory care center.
It's a small step, but gosh, that's a big step.
Next, after years of research and trials, a medicine breakthrough. A reminder, if you are worried you are seeing those signs in a loved one, we have resources here. If you have questions about Alzheimer's, our experts are standing by to take your call. Call 844-44-CALL-4. That's 844-442-2554. My mother's Alzheimer's was diagnosed in 2005, and at that time, my family was told there was no reliable treatment, no known cause, no known cure. It is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States and still the only disease in the top 10 with no known cure. But now there is hope and finally treatment. For several years, we've been following the research at Ohio State University, where Dr. Douglas Share is part of the biggest treatment breakthrough in Alzheimer's history.
So it's an infusion drug. We've been doing this study for several years at Ohio State. It's called lecanemab. It was actually approved July, full approval, and Medicare has even decided to pay for it. So it's a drug that's designed to get in there and get rid of amyloid.
Amyloid, the hated and eventually deadly protein that builds up on the surface of the brain, a slow, years-long layering that causes a slow descent into dementia. The FDA says lecanemab can intervene.
And it's not a miracle drug, but it does help slow the decline down of the disease. And so people that are in that very mild group, just sort of the earliest symptoms of Alzheimer's or very mild Alzheimer's dementia, are the only ones, unfortunately, that will be able to take advantage of it and be useful for them.
That's why if you or someone you love is showing the early symptoms of this slow decline, you should act fast.
The most important point is if anyone notices a change in thinking or memory problem solving, get in to see your primary care doctor. And of course, there's the SAGE test, which we developed here at OSU, which is a pen and paper test, digital or paper, that they can take and measure over time to see if there's any decline over time.
It's called the SAGE test, and we will put a link to it online, as well as information about lecanemab.
It's a small step, but gosh, that's a big step. A disease-modifying treatment. That means we can actually maybe modify the disease, not just supportive, not just getting rid of symptoms, not just helping, memory a little bit, but actually maybe altering the time course of the disease.
Dr. Share says good nutrition, exercise, and socialization are all known to help. If I gave you an optimism scale, with 1 being no hope and 10 extremely optimistic about where we're going with Alzheimer's, where are we on that scale?
Well, right now we're still at, maybe 2 or something like this. I mean, we've made some early steps. We're beginning to disease modify. As an optimistic guy, maybe I'll go 3 or 4, but we can cure this thing. I do believe at some point we will be able to figure it out.
Dr. Share told me about a new clinical trial for people with no memory problems, no symptoms, no cognitive problems, but they are still at risk. To qualify, you have to have the beginnings of amyloid protein building up on the surface of your brain. Later, my effort to find out if I qualify for that study. Next, what we can all control: diet and exercise, and the magic being cooked up in a memory center kitchen. Maybe all of this is making you think of new questions, answers you want. Call 844-442-2554. We have experts on our Call 4 lines. Exercise and good nutrition, we all need it, and the Alzheimer's Association says it's important for those living with the disease, especially controlling fat and salt intake. But nutrition and exercise at one local care center have been taken to an all-new level.
What we, helps to improve our health or deteriorate our health. And so we really feel that if we can control the ingredients and we try to avoid all the processed foods that we have. I think it's 60% of the American diet is highly processed ingredients.
You won't find processed food at Kemper House, where they view food as medicine and believe in true farm to table.
We work with all local farmers for our produce, for our meats, for our pork, our beef. We actually have a farmer down in Marietta that really grows cows for us. And it takes 18 months, and there's no hormones in it.
They buy the Ohio-grown, grass-fed beef and pork and make sausage with hardly any fat. The chef owns enough chickens to keep the place in fresh eggs. The produce comes directly from Ohio farm fields, straight to a restaurant-level kitchen.
That's where the magic kind of happens. And so we truly believe that every bite that our residents take is getting them a little bit healthier. And with that, we've actually seen a lot of our residents within a 6-month period have a medication reduction anywhere from 25 to 50%. And if you know anything about medications, medication can play havoc on your cognition.
And not far from the kitchen, a specially designed gym.
Right here to the right. Right here? Yep.
So our gym is totally unique to any gym in the nation, and it's really designed to combat all the different comorbidities that seniors deal with. Everything from balance issues, gait issues, swallowing issues, bone density issues, and obviously cognitive decline.
Greg knows food and exercise won't cure Alzheimer's, but he believes it can help fight it.
I do know this, that we've had residents that have come to us that were non-ambulatory, non-verbal, meaning they can't walk, they can't talk, and within 6 months are walking with help and talking. And families, I'm not kidding you, from across the nation will call their local loved ones and go, what is happening? How is this happening?
Some might ask, why is it happening? Why so much time and effort for special food, targeted exercise? for people who are experiencing the inevitable decline of Alzheimer's.
Our goal is to create moments of quality for our residents, and no matter what, I don't care how deep you are in the disease, if you're in the very last phases of it, love permeates through that, and what it allows them to do is stay a little bit more cognitively connected to their environment, to their families, and to our caregivers, and it's through that that the magic happens.
Getting in on a new drug trial involves a lot more than picking up a pill. I'll take you inside phase 1 as I get tested when we come back. And we want to remind you, if you have any questions about Alzheimer's, we have people standing by who can help you. Our team of experts is on the front line of this terrible disease. Call 844-442-2554 to speak with one of them. Before any new drug hits the market, it goes through years of testing and thousands of human test subjects. Lecanemab is the breakthrough drug we told you about, already approved by the FDA. It is effective at slowing down Alzheimer's if it's taken in the earliest stages of the disease, when the first symptoms emerge. But researchers wondered, what if it's taken years before any symptoms show up? Can it keep Alzheimer's from developing? I wanted to be part of the effort to answer that question.
So this amyloid builds up maybe 15 years before you forget your keys for the first time.
15 years? So someone who will show symptoms of Alzheimer's at 65 has amyloid slowly gathering on their brain as early as the age of 50. Now that researchers know the drug lecanemab slows Alzheimer's in its early stages, they want to find out if it can block it.
We're going to give you a placebo or the real medication, and we're going to see if getting rid of amyloid early, before you have clinical symptoms, before you have any cognitive issues, is helpful to prevent maybe or delay, any start of symptoms.
But first, the paperwork.
But so some of the risks involved in taking part of this procedure.
Test subjects go through demographic questions and have to agree to the risks and processes. Then the initial test, the blood work.
I'm going to tie this on nice and tight, okay?
Okay. My blood will let them know if I have amyloid at a level that indicates I am at risk.
Last one.
If I do, I will move to phase 2.
That's the PET scan. So you're going to get the amyloid PET scan. So this is an image of your brain where they inject you with a radionuclide that attaches to any amyloid that's in the brain.
That will let them know if amyloid is present at a level that qualifies me for the monthly drug infusions over the next several years. They are also testing my blood for genetic markers. It's complicated, but you get an epsilon protein, either E2, E3, or E4, one from each parent. E4 gives you a genetic risk for Alzheimer's.
So if you have one of these E4 alleles, or even two of the E4 alleles, one from your mom, one from your dad, you may never, ever get Alzheimer's disease. It just means you're at higher risk.
My mom got it late 70s. My grandmother got it probably early 80s. My grandmother on my dad's side.
Okay.
And my dad's sister got it late 70s, early 80s. Does that mean that pattern would follow if I were to develop it? I'm more likely to develop it around the age that they did?
Yeah, it is true that usually the next generation would get it about the same time frame as the previous generation.
It's all about risk, but it's also about knowledge. If I qualify for the study, I will get the monthly infusions, routine brain scans, and they will test my memory and cognition. It will be weeks before I get my initial blood results. I admit, it is scary. But for the first time, knowledge in Alzheimer's is power.
Now in Alzheimer's, for the first time, we have disease-modifying treatments. So in other words, that we can do something about it. We can find out about it, that you have it or not, and we could do something about it, ahead of time that we never had before. So there is actually something that we potentially could do that might specifically help you, other than just knowledge about whether you have these genes or whether your amyloid is elevated. So I think it makes a lot of sense, other than just from information, to help people, because there's actually something they could actually do about it, and to help prevent or slow down or delay the onset of the condition.
If I do not have an elevated level of amyloid, I will be celebrating. If I do, I will move on to the next phase of the study and hopefully help in the search for answers. If you are interested in being tested, in taking part of that drug trial, we have information on how to do that at NBC4i.com. Thanks to the Alzheimer's Association, to those who shared their stories with us tonight, to executive producer Jennifer Kaiser, photographer and editor Rob Karnacki, director Todd Brewer, and our entire NBC4 family. We hope you got the information and answers you needed tonight, especially if you are on the journey through Alzheimer's.